Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a great St. Patty's Day. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott, your host of Google Plus Week. Apparently a dying social network from everything I keep reading, from people rehashing stuff from 2 weeks ago. So, Alan, the big story everyone's talking about now is this deal with the FTC. Apparently some stuff leaked. The first story I saw was from our former guest, Danny Sullivan at Search Marketing Land. And the gist of it is that some FTC staffers thought that they should, in fact, sue Google for this deal where they said if you let us scrape your services for information, like any user could do on the web, then everything's cool and we'll put you in the search results, but otherwise we might diminish your results. So one person, two observations at a press, and you can explain this better than I can, but one person said nobody goes to a search engine for links to other search engines. That was interesting in my post to this. And the second prescient thing here is this reminds me of the Yelp ruling, where Yelp was straight up, if you stopped advertising, they would diminish your stature and maybe remove some positive search rankings, etc. And the judge said that's freedom of speech. Not to say that Yelp is, while they're strong, is as strong as Google. So what are your thoughts on this whole thing that everyone's talking about?
Well, I think that final point is the critical difference here. One of the other things that came out that I read also, which I thought was kind of interesting, is that Google apparently was extremely happy about the fact that ComScore was giving them a lower usage report than what everyone else suspected at the time. That ComScore basically was dropping their score a bit, and that's because it made them look less monopolistic than real numbers would have shown. And they liked that because they didn't want to be a monopoly, because as a monopoly, they would get FTC scrutiny. But I think that's fundamentally the issue. Yelp had a lot of competitors that all had pretty decent market share. Google does not, and it still does not.
Okay, so here's the question, and I'm going to try to phrase this differently from the 24 times I've said this before. What is the difference? What is the difference between this situation and Walmart, which is the number one retailer, and Costco, which is the number two retailer? Costco just was in the news because they're switching from Amex to some Visa or MasterCard, whatever it is, and Walmart choosing whether, at one point they dumped Rubbermaid.
What's Walmart's market share?
I don't know, it's up there. I mean, it's not the same because Google is 90+% in some of these European markets, so I get that. And they're the go-to verb. It's what everyone uses. I mean, you don't have to use the interstate highway system. You can use the little dirt roads instead.
Walmart's market share is 63%.
I'd say that it's not dramatically different than Google's.
Really? You don't think 98% is different than 63%?
Are they really 98%? But what's the reason for it? It's choice, right? So if you become successful, if
actually, you're right. Google holds 67.6% of the U.S. search engine market share.
Okay, what was the first part of that phrase there just then?
Record it because you're not going to hear it often. Google, you're right. However,
you heard it here, folks.
That's U.S. market share.
All right, so in Europe they're stronger. But I just, I think it's a fair analogy. They can decide whether to put your products in their store. This is the search equivalent of a grocery store that Google built, and they're just better at it. And anybody's, you and Gerwin and Moritz can get together and come up with a better search engine, and I'll use it. You would use it. We'd all use it if it was better.
No, we wouldn't.
Because of all the ancillary things like Android, which has it as the default.
Well, that's part of it, but it's more that we wouldn't use it because for starters, you're making a presumption that somehow we could make one that's better. Better, how would you define better?
Better search results. And even Google has serious flaws. I'll go there. I'll say, okay, so what is the best stainless steel, whatever? I mean, some random search, and in Google still, I'll see, answers.com, maybe as the first or second result. I'll click on it, and it'll say, be the first to answer this question. That is completely wasted my freaking time, right? My question was, what is whatever I'm seeking? And they're going to send me to some destination that is seeking an answer as well. That is not helpful to me in any way. And the crux of this case was that they were actually trying to present the relevant answers that the person was seeking.
No, they weren't. That wasn't the crux of this case at all.
Well, correct me then.
The crux of this case is that Google was experimenting with search results that deliberately lowered their competitors' ranking and elevated their own ranking.
Is that illegal?
What?
A, is it wrong?
Okay. So you're right. A, is it wrong? B, is it legal?
Two different things.
They're two different things. And by wrong in this case, I'm going to use Google's own criteria for wrongness.
And one caveat, please, from two different perspectives. One, from the consumer perspective.
Sure.
And two, from the business playing fair game perspective, because they're two different things as well.
There's three criteria here. There's 1A. Is it wrong? Is it wrong from a consumer perspective? Sorry, is it
from the user perspective?
Is it wrong from a Google perspective? 1B, is it wrong from a consumer perspective? And 2, is it illegal? So that's the criteria we're looking at, right?
The trifecta of this issue.
Okay, so 1A, is it wrong from Google's perspective? Yes, absolutely. It is evil.
Why?
If Google's aim is to, quote, organize the world's information and to present information in as fair and reasonable way as possible, which is what their search system was supposed to do. That was the fundamental concept of PageRank originally, was that it was a better way of delivering the search results you were most interested in. By that criteria, it is wrong. Absolutely, unequivocally wrong. Because what they were doing was lowering more relevant information and boosting up Google's results, which by their own measurement criteria were inferior websites.
Clearly not what they're expected, what the consumer would expect them to be delivering.
No, we haven't gotten to the consumer yet.
Okay.
We're talking about Google. By their own criteria of how they should be acting, it was wrong.
Right.
Okay. So now, part B. Was it bad from a consumer's point of view? Abso-freaking-lutely. Consumers were definitely harmed by this. Google tried to drive out the competition in certain markets. They tried to promote websites that were inferior. And these inferior websites were providing poor commercial results for consumers. So consumers ultimately were paying more.
That sounds like abusing one's dominant market share.
Correct.
It sounds like something you could only possibly get away with or contemplate if you were in a position to abuse one's dominant market share.
And they are. Aren't they?
I don't know. They're good to me. They're good to you. But yeah, I hear you.
Okay, and
so we're whores, everyone. We're whores.
So then it gets to part two, which is it legal? And I have not looked at all the evidence, obviously. I have not read the 145-page report. If I have trouble going to sleep tonight, maybe I will. And I am not a lawyer. But on the face of it, the FTC is saying that the people that studied this thought there might be a case. Now, I could argue that both ways, to be perfectly honest. But the fact that somebody thought there might have been a case, and that might have been a case that went before a judge and possibly a jury, indicates there's at least a question of its legality. And it boils down to, did Google, and I think what it boils down to is, did Google take advantage of its dominant market position? Not just its dominant market position, its near monopoly, to drive out competition in other areas.
Okay.
And if they did, that is illegal.
How?
Because that's the law.
Doesn't Walmart do that with Great Value products or kicking Rubbermaid out?
They don't drive out competition in other areas. That they're not. Basically, what Walmart does, the best example I could have with Walmart would be if they also, I'm trying to think of a reasonable one here. If they had their own bank, their own consumer bank.
Which they tried to.
Well, they didn't have a consumer bank. The only reason why they had a bank was so they could offer their own credit cards.
Yeah, so they cut out, they hate Visa,
so they could cut out the middleman.
There's no greater hatred than Walmart versus Visa, MasterCard.
Right. But you'll note that but I mean a true consumer bank, such as one that offers loans and so forth, offers savings plans and so forth. If they used their dominant position in retail to force consumers to just use their bank. So, for example, if they said, look, the only credit card we're going to accept is the Walmart card, and thus force consumers to using something that may not have benefited consumers in any way, that would have been illegal. But they don't do that.
So I would just point out that you looked at the numbers and you saw that Walmart and Google both have an almost identical percentage of U.S. market share. And when I go to Walmart and want to buy styrofoam cups, the only brand available to me is Great Value brand, which is Walmart's house brand. There is no Dixie option. There's no whatever, Georgia Pacific option, etc. So they should be brought to court for abusing their market position because they're not allowing other competitors who want to sell styrofoam cups on the shelves of Walmart. What is not analogous about that to this case?
What's not analogous is that you're saying they're using their dominant position in retail to force a particular retail operation.
They're trying to force purchase of their products which have a higher margin.
No, listen to what I said. They're trying to force a particular... They are a retail company. That's what they do.
Google or Walmart?
Walmart.
Okay.
Walmart is a retail company, so they're trying to force a particular retail behavior. Google is a search company, and by their practices, we're trying to force a particular retail behavior. Do you see the difference?
In the end, it's about making money, right? It's about who gets
No.
It's not?
See, here's the thing, Dan. Making money is legal. Using a particular market position, using a particular market dominance to force a market dominance in a different area is not legal.
Okay.
That's anti-competitive.
Anything else on this? I have a pizza waiting for me. I got the boys back there eating pizza, and I can smell it, and I'm dying for pizza.
Oh, life's rough.
He's mocking my pizza deficit. All right. So anyway, we think that the FTC was wrong and Google was right. We agree on that. All right.
To make
So
it clear, we don't agree on this one. But we haven't agreed on this one for like 4 years now, so I don't
um,
anticipate that changing anytime soon.
what's the point in building up a monopoly if you can't use it to screw your competitors? I'm just kidding, of course, kind of. Okay, so next up is
How many newspapers are in your town, Dan?
like 4 or 5, all of which combined are less than half of my circulation. So I am sympathetic to Google's position. The Washington Post, the Winchester Star, the Warren Sentinel, the Northern Virginia Daily, um, the Page Courier, their circulation in Warren County combined is less than half of mine. So
So let me ask you something, Dan. Why is it that you don't get into the cable business,
because someone's already laid that pipe.
but you have a dominant position in media? Certainly, you can blow them away by your superior marketing.
No, it's infrastructure. It's physical infrastructure.
So what if they started a newspaper?
That would suck for me.
Yeah, because they'd blow you out of the water.
Yeah, but they're free to. I mean, I'm in.
Even though you have a better paper, and they're using their dominant market position to reduce competition in the area.
That would suck, and I would be pissed. But I don't know if it would be illegal. Here we get to wrong versus illegal, but I don't think it'd even be wrong. I think it would suck for me, but they would have a right, to expand their business. That's America. If you own a pizzeria and I come into town and my pizza's better and everyone flocks to me, I haven't committed a crime.
Yeah, but here's the thing. No. We're not talking about. Here's, I think, the nature of why you and I keep disagreeing on this point. You keep citing it as competition is good, and this is purely a matter of This is purely a matter of two competing companies, right?
Yes.
And I fundamentally agree with that. However, I fundamentally agree with it and disagree with the result because I'm saying that what Google is doing is not competitive. They
It
are
is
just
for
the opposite.
Google.
No. Google is introducing. So let's use shopping search results as an example, which is one of the examples the FTC cited. For example, if I was searching for a product and I went onto Google and I searched for cat litter. Okay, and Google only showed me the Google shopping results for cat litter.
Like Walmart only shows me the great value styrofoam cups.
No, stop. We're talking Google search only showed me Google cat litter.
Okay.
Two completely different, search is one thing, retail is another thing.
Not when they're making money off this eventual sale. What's the difference? It's all profit motive. You could be selling cars. Are we going to get to the point, Alan, where if there's a dominant car dealership and Ford is running a promotion on selling the whatever model, and the sales rep is instructed to push this particular model for a financial incentive, and that we're going to get to call in, Attorney General Holder's going to have a press conference to protect consumers from themselves?
Dan, once again, you keep saying you're making false analogies. You're assuming that search and retail are the exact same thing.
No, I'm saying that it's their means to an end. I'm saying that in the end,
that's the thing. Search was not a means to an end.
All of these companies that are complaining are trying to sell you something. So how is search not related to retail when you're talking about litigious activity like this? In the end, Orbitz and Yelp and others are trying, or whoever the plaintiffs are, they're Kayak. They're retail agencies or wholesalers or whatever. I guess retailers, and that's their grievance, that they're unable to market their products and services on Google as well as they would like, because Google has a vested interest in their own competing product. And so I am drawing an analogy to retail. I think it's superficial to say it's anything other than that. This is about the money. This is about the bottom line.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Your town, your town has 2 or 3 main roads into it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your town makes money from sales taxes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you've got 2 car dealerships in your town, hypothetically. And one car dealership makes a deal with the town that everybody who's coming into town has to stop at a toll booth, and they're given a flyer at that toll booth telling them about that car dealership. And the other car dealership is forbidden to advertise in any way, shape, or form in your town.
I mean, this could not be a more unrealistic analogy.
No, Dan, that's exactly what Google did. They made it so that if you're looking for a car, you are handed an advertisement for Google cars, and the competing car dealership isn't mentioned at all. That's exactly what Google search did.
I think a municipality versus an independent business, it's a stretch, but I will concede that Alan has a great point. We should all consider his point. Can we move on to
Sure.
our next segment? Will be much more helpful to our viewers. It's 2 white guys debating gender treatment of women. I wish Pam were here, or anybody with boobs. But
Oh my God, Dan.
I didn't say that. Sorry, I retract that. But Pam, I think you shared this, and this was a huge fail. But I don't know the context. I haven't seen it because you were trying to find the original video. But basically, Eric Schmidt was on. They were talking about diversity or something, and there was a female person in the panel, and apparently, according to the version I heard, that they repeatedly interrupted the person, and then someone called them out for it from the audience, and that person in the audience who called out Eric Schmidt, the executive chairman of Google, was in fact a sort of a diversity champion at Google. So it was, as fails go, and in fact, on our Monday show, there was a tweet about this at the very end. I think that probably sparked your interest. It was from The Verge, and it said that Google totally embarrasses himself, as I did about 90 seconds ago. But have you looked into this? Have you seen it to get it in context? Did it seem fair?
I've still been
I have
unable
not.
to find. I've been unable to find a full transcript and unable to find a video of it. But this took place at South by Southwest. It was Eric Schmidt, who is the I don't know, he's something there.
Executive chairman of Google.
He's chief executive officer in charge of putting his foot in his mouth. There was Walter Isaacson, who was a biographer for Steve Jobs. And there was Megan Smith, who used to work at Google and who left there to become the chief technology officer for the United States. Little title like that. And apparently repeatedly, during this panel discussion, they kept stomping over what Megan Smith was saying. So finally, and one of the things that they were the theme was how innovation happens. But one of the things that kept coming up during this was that there needed to be more diversity in technology. And there were questions about how companies like Google, how the U.S. government, how various other companies can get more women and minorities involved. Now, it's common for both men it's common for interruptions to happen on panels, but it was apparently being particularly done in this. It was particularly obvious. So during the Q&A session, somebody said, given that unconscious bias research tells us that women are interrupted a lot more than men, I'm wondering if you're aware that you've interrupted Megan many more times. And everyone was kind of shocked by this, but apparently the person asking the question is in charge of the unconscious bias program at Google. Meg Smith replied to that, though, saying it's an interesting thing, unconscious bias. It's something we all have, and it's something we have to really debug. So basically, yes, we're all doing it, and we need to fix this. But it's the fact that it's unconscious means it's not always that obvious.
This is such what I was getting at with my failed attempt at humor earlier was that it's Alan and I really aren't qualified. You know, it'd be nice if we had a more diverse. We're sitting here talking about diversity. It's two white guys.
Yes,
right?
it really would be nice if we had more diversity on the show this evening. It would be nice if we had more diversity in general. But, you know, again, maybe that starts suggesting a part of the problem.
And I'm not.
Dan, don't dig your grave any deeper.
No. I'm saying I'm not. I don't know. I really want it. I would love to watch the actual video, and I haven't seen a clip. I think you were looking for it as well, but I'm totally not saying this criticism isn't completely fair. But I really like to look at the actual source before I draw conclusions, especially after we've seen all the stories about Google Plus's imminent demise. You know, and so I would like to see the original stuff to see, because it's a tough call, because I don't know. Everything's subjective. You know, if I were in a
I don't know, Dan. Seems like the sort of thing
how
that
do
could
I
be
say this without
quantified
getting
fairly well.
further in trouble?
This seems like the sort of thing that can be quantified. How many times
I want to watch and see if I would want to watch and see if because I mean you and I step on each other all the time, but if all of a sudden
but Dan, we've also seen on this show how difficult it's been sometimes for Pam to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, and we've learned from that, and now we're basically scared of her because whenever she speaks, we're like, E.F. Hutton. But she made her point across. But not everyone is as willing to make that point known as Pam is, to her credit.
And even when she did make her point known, it was still very difficult for her to get a word in edgewise. And that's part of the issue. That's something that's part of this unconscious bias.
And as a side issue, I am a former high school teacher, and it was co-ed, but I went to a single-sex school. I went to Fort Union Military Academy, which is all boys, and then I taught at Randolph-Macon Academy, which was co-ed. It was primarily male, because a military school typically is going to draw more male students than female students. Just that's the way it is. And I did find that the type A, loud, attention-getting students tended to be male, although there were exceptions, right? I mean, for every Margaret Thatcher out there who's a real brain and contributing and eager to get in the mix, there are several non-type A's who are observers rather than punching you in the face, right? And that's just the way it is. So I don't know. This is a complex issue that, frankly, I feel awkward discussing, because I'm not qualified to discuss it, especially in a panel that is like, two white guys analyzing the problem with diversity in America. I mean, I don't know what,
And that's part of the problem, Dan.
Yeah. But women were invited and, have other things going on, or technical glitches in one case. But, so anyway. So, remind me, Alan, not to ever put these topics up when it's just us. All right, so next up is a safer topic, since I know nothing about it. Google makes Docs add-ons more enterprise-friendly. I wish Michael Ellis were here, because he's always talking about the enterprise versus the consumer versions of various Google products, especially apps versus Gmail. But what's this in a nutshell? This isn't a big topic, but it's something of note.
Well, what we might remember is about a year ago, Google introduced something called add-ons for docs and sheets and presentations. And these were almost like applications that would directly run inside the Google Docs stuff. I'm just going to call them docs for shorthand from now on. That would run inside Google Docs and provide some outside programs that could run inside Docs. If you've used spreadsheet, if you've used things like Microsoft Excel, if you use Microsoft products, it's very similar to how VBA used to work, providing your own controls sitting on the side. This worked really well, and there were a lot of things that were neat about it. The problem was, though, in order for you to use them, you needed to activate them individually. And this was a good step, but it made it difficult for companies, for example, to write their own add-ons and then make them available to everyone in the company. This was immediately recognized as something that needed to come, and now they've rolled out the ability for domain administrators to make these add-ons available to members in the domain. They could always use them before. It's not that this was something that was blocked previously, but this now makes it easier for domain admins to give the feature to give specific add-ons to the entire company.
Well, I, for one, now understand that thoroughly.
Would you like me to use smaller words, Dan?
Maybe some visual aids. All right, so I was catching.
Visual aids, you need to warn me ahead of time so I can prepare them.
I'm sure he had a visual aid before the program, which was very effective when we were discussing signing. All right, so anyway, a couple comments here. Now that we've had a thorough explanation of that, from Richard, he says, I don't get this either. Maybe you get the reference. Tip for Monday, TAG, Hero, and Google's collaboration. This is a YouTube comment. And then Bugsy Klein, one of our...
Wait, what was the comment?
It was... it
You want
was...
to...
Is it TAG or TAG? Hero?
Oh, okay, I know what he's talking about now.
What's he
Yeah.
talking about?
We'll cover that in detail on Monday, but we'll mention it later.
All right, and then Bugsy Klein, no one is forcing you to shop or search. True. So if you don't like it, why not use a different search engine? Bing it. Bing it, Bugsy says. And he says, Homeboy is a little angry. I'm guessing you're Homeboy? I don't know. Did I get angry?
I guess. I didn't realize I got angry.
I don't know. This is actually pretty tame for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want to see me angry? You won't like it when I'm angry.
There's no pulling of hair or gnashing of teeth, so angry's too strong. What else we got here? Pam should be back in 2 weeks, she says. In time to berate me for my unfortunate choice of words earlier. God, I hope nobody cuts that out and it becomes a thing. Okay, Sai. All right, he shared. He's watching. All right. Thanks for watching, Bugsy. All right, so next up is... okay, the changes coming for Google Sign-In. I know nothing about this. This is Alan's topic. I'm going to pee. Just that's TMI, but...
Better pee quickly because it's really not that long, Dan.
That was a dig just then.
No, it wasn't.
Pam got that joke. Go ahead, Alan.
So, you might remember a couple of years back, Google introduced a new button called, which we were calling the Google Plus Sign-In, or Sign-In. A nice red button, had the Google Plus logo, said Sign In with Google, something like that. It was basically similar to the Connect with Facebook and Sign In with Twitter type button. So it provided your different websites to use Google's authentication to authenticate, to verify who the user was that was logging in. There were rumors a few months back about how it was going away or changing. Now we've started to see some of the documentation surrounding changes to it that include, aside from a lot of other things, but they include changing the buttons so that unless you're asking for social specific things, it will say, using Google's blue, sign in with Google, instead of the Google Plus logo, sign in with Google. That's pretty much it. We're still trying to understand what's going on. Gervin uncovered this earlier this week. It's in Google's documentation, so it's legit and and official. but there's still some bugs being worked out, and there's been no official announcement about it yet. So you heard it here first. Changes are coming to Google Sign-In. There are a lot of other things behind the scenes, some technical stuff which our audience won't care about, that come with this that are pretty cool. But changes are coming into authentication, and this is a good thing in general.
Google's chickens are coming home to roost. Just kidding. That was a topical reference. Okay, so next up is everything you need to know about the new Google Plus or Google Twitter partnership. That was a Freudian slip there, mentioning Google Plus. So we remember in the past there was in search when you could filter your criteria, you could say real time, and it would produce, among other things, it was primarily Twitter results. And it's really helpful as a journalist if I'm looking for something like recently we had a big story that I'll be talking about on the radio tomorrow on the Virginia Talk Radio Network, virginiatalkradionetwork.com or WIQOradio.com is one of their stations, about the UVA story about the student who attempted to enter a bar, was turned away, and ABC agents smashed his skull for his crime of not being admitted. And so it's a whole thing, and there's demonstrations. But anyway, if I were looking for the latest details on that, like before I have to go on the radio, that was a real helpful thing. And it didn't last long because Twitter and Google it didn't last long after I discovered it. But Google and Twitter did not reach an agreement, and they ended that, what they call the fire hose. And
it lasted 4 years, Dan.
Well, I'm late to the game. So anyway, that happened, and now they've reinstated some version of it, and it's going to happen, I guess, in a couple months, 3 months, something like that. But
well, they've reinstated their partnership. The technical details are still being worked out, and it will probably surface, because there's been no official time given, sometime in the second or third quarter. This article, I'm sorry, the headline is actually a terrible headline. Because although it says everything you need to know, it doesn't actually tell you anything you need to know.
So it's not everything.
It's not anything at all. It gives us the history, which is good. It makes some speculation based on that history, which is probably more or less accurate. It speculates on when it's being released, because nobody knows that. And it raises the question about Google Plus and speculates the answer, because nobody knows that either.
For journalism especially, but for any number of things, if I really want a central thing, and I don't like all these separate ecosystems, it's a real hassle. If you're trying to find something exploded, a plane crash went down, is there anybody out there? And Alan?
Oh my fucking God, Dan. Really, I really can't believe you said that in light of our earlier conversation.
Okay. I'm thinking like I can go on Facebook. Like if it's a local thing, I got to go on Facebook to try to find, what's hot there. And then, I got to go to Twitter and do a search, and it's going to suck. And then I got to go to Google. And then, it's frustrating. I wish.
You wish that all of these companies would, that someone would, not in their own self-interest, promote their platform over everyone else's platform?
Like that's going to happen. I understand they're competing with each other.
That's what you just said you wanted.
No, I'm saying as a journalist, it would be convenient for me.
So you as a consumer would benefit from a fair and unbiased ranking, pulling from a number of sources.
This is different. I hear what you're saying. I granted.
Thank you.
Okay, this is it could be construed as hypocritical. Hypocritical.
Yes, Hippocratic.
So we're 0, 0, and 1 or whatever. I'm an oath taker, I guess. But so I'm just saying, as a consumer of search, in a news situation, I can't stand that Facebook is a closed platform, so I got to go on there, then I got to go on Twitter. So I'm for this kind of like, meeting at the bridge and exchanging prisoners or what have you to benefit the consumer.
But companies aren't interested in benefiting the consumer.
They are if they make money by benefiting the consumer, which results in more traffic for them and more clicking of ads on their platform.
Well, but except for the fact that, in this case, it benefits their competitor more. So why would they do that?
I don't know. I'm just going to ask Jeeves. All right, so anyway, Twitter real time stuff is coming. Did you, in this article that we linked, I unfortunately linked to, it draws a correlation about how this is even more distancing from Google Plus. Is that BS or is there anything to that?
Depends how you view Google Plus.
Depends what the word is.
No, it depends on how you view Google Plus. If you thought Google Plus and Twitter really in a lot of ways serve two very, very different things. Twitter has always been about getting things out in chronological order as rapidly as possible, and Google was always about curating the information that you want.
I agree.
Now, if you see those as the same thing, then yes. Mind you, neither of them is a very good social network.
I think one is the most. I think Google Plus excels at what is the most relevant. Like Google Search, Google Plus excels at is if I'm looking for a topic or something, what is the most relevant to what I'm searching for? Whereas Twitter is, I'm looking for the absolute newest details on this, and I'm trying to publish the most recent stuff, and someone else is trying to consume that, and they put me and that other person together. I think that's where Twitter excels. Google's more curated, where Twitter's more real time. But they're very different. I mean, they're very different. Okay, so next up is many of us saw the 60 Minutes piece with Jeff Bezos, and as a little teaser, he showed Amazon Air, which is their drone thing, and Jeff Bezos has one of his moonshot programs, to give him credit, is to use drones to deliver products to people very quickly. And, of course, cut out the middleman. Let's not kid ourselves. That's the motivation here. Speed and efficiency and lower cost. So they're experimenting with these drones, and then he had said that he might have to go overseas in order to test these things, because the FAA has been stonewalling for so long, and with good reason. I can understand. There's a case you can make that they're afraid to open these things up, and we've seen a drone just crash in the White House lawn, and a couple months ago there was a near collision with an airplane, although I imagine the airplane would have won. But anyway, they've gotten approval under their new set of guidelines.
You really think you're really naive enough to believe that the airplane would have won?
I think most likely, based obviously if
I have two words for you. Captain Sullivan.
Sullenberger, A. B.
Damn it. Thank you. You win.
Alan is intoxicated tonight. He's celebrating.
I should have just left it at one word, and that's Sully, but...
you could set it, the Hudson River. But, yeah, it was like, 50 geese in front of both of his engines. That's why it went down. These planes are fully equipped in most cases, to operate on one engine. That's why they have two. And... for safety. But yeah, I mean, I think a little tiny plastic toy from Radio Shack, if it hit the side of an airplane, it's likely that the airplane would survive. It's potential it might not, but these aren't like toys, the actual 747s or whatever. But anyway, so Amazon got, and it's not like a blanket thing they can just do it. They have to have an actual certified like airplane pilot, I think, and they have to maintain visual distance. So it's clearly just a testing scenario. It's not practical to, it's cheaper for them to use FedEx than to hire a certified pilot to observe your package from point A to point B, and they can only surface service areas that are within line of sight from their warehouses. So obviously that's a fail, but it is enough to test. And then the FAA wants data back to them so that they can analyze this and see what's going on and see how safe it is, and they have to have details on any crashes and that sort of thing, any loss of control, which is what happened in the White House case, because that guy's not going to be charged. He was a government employee. He was drunk. He was playing with his consumer toy level, but relatively high end. But it wasn't like a drone over Afghanistan, and it ended up in the White House garden. And he's not going to be charged because it was an innocent mistake, and he didn't even know where it had landed until he read on the news the next day that a drone. They always use the word drone when really it's an unarmed aerial vehicle. What do you want to call it? Or a toy is what you could call it. But this is progress. I mean, baby steps from our sloth-like and lethargic regulation process that is the federal government. Any thoughts on this, Alan?
Nope.
Okay. So, someone's got to be that guy. All right, so next up is, in a major reversal, New Jersey allows Tesla to sell its cars directly without dealerships. Okay, so Tesla was meeting resistance in New Jersey along with many, many other states, including Virginia, unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to admit. And this all goes back to the old days when you had a bunch of car dealerships, and the movie, what was about the car?
Tucker is probably what you're thinking.
Tucker, about the guy who invented a car, and it went out of business, and some people bought it, I guess, or whatever, but it's argued whether or not that movie was accurate, because some people say it was a scam the whole time, but it was a great movie. I loved it, and of course you're rooting for Tucker, right, against the evil, incumbent legacy guys. So anyway, Tesla's main argument is their electric cars, they don't have a combustible engine, so there's no need for them to have a repair shop at every dealership. And based on the fact that decades and decades ago, there were many, many car companies before massive consolidation occurred into GM, Chrysler, and Ford, that these guys would buy a car, and then that company would be small, and they'd go out of business, and they'd get stuck with the car, and they couldn't get parts for it, and they'd get screwed. So the legislatures passed these things where you had to have a local presence, a locally owned franchise. The dealer, Ford, GM, Chevrolet, could not sell directly to the consumer. That you had to have a repair shop on site at the dealership so you could fix a problem if necessary, and so on. So Tesla's argument is they don't need that because they have regional repair shops. If something goes wrong with your car, they will go and drive to your house and drop off a loaner Tesla Model S and pick up your Model S or whatever Tesla you have and take yours to get it fixed, and then return it, drop it down off the tow truck, and then take your loaner back. So why do they have to have this inefficient thing? And also, to lower costs, although that's odd coming from Tesla, which is like a $100,000 car, or just under that. But they don't want to have a dealership and a middleman in every town. So I see Tesla's side on this, frankly. Although potentially Tesla could go bankrupt, and then would everyone be screwed? So I can try to empathize with the other side as well. So they've approved, I think, like 4 or 6 dealerships, and they have to have 1 or 2 repair shops in New Jersey as a condition of this. So this is not a blanket like there's going to be a Tesla dealership on every corner of New Jersey. Any thoughts on this, Alan? This seems like more than baby steps toward progress. This makes sense. And I'm surprised it happened in New Jersey, of all places, which is certainly a union-friendly town.
Nope. Wait, whoa. Did you just call New Jersey a union-friendly town?
Maybe I'm wrong there. Am I wrong there?
Have you looked at their governor recently?
Well, he's got a legislature, and I'm looking at, is it a right-to-work state? Are there municipal unions? Is it looked at as a bastion of progress in the United States and everything's hunky-dory? Or is it the butt of jokes?
Well, it's the butt of jokes, but for various other reasons.
Okay.
Even
Saric acknowledges.
New Jersey is a forced union state, and it does have a relatively powerful municipal union. However, it's also got a fairly strong governor at this point.
Well, all he did was sign the bill.
He didn't lobby for it?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I've got a pizza waiting for me, and I just put the paper out. I'm a zombie. So honestly,
This
God,
is
I
your
don't know.
story. It's not mine.
I know, but I'm pro Tesla, so any chance I get to give them a boost. Okay, so next up is HBO, Showtime, and Sony want an internet fast lane for TV streaming. This is an interesting story that Craig Shipp, who disagrees with me. I favor the FCC action on net neutrality, the reclassification of broadband providers under Title II because of abuses that we've seen, in my opinion, like paid fast lanes and dumbing down Netflix until they agreed to what I would call extortion money. But that's my opinion. Craig Shipp, who is a very small government guy, he does not like a heavy-handed bureaucracy running things, and there's a lot of smart people who agree with him on this. That this is a can of worms, a Pandora's box we're opening up by letting the FCC in on this.
Let's make no doubt. This is the can of worms. The problem is previously we had a bucket of worms.
The phrase I've used before, of all the shitty options, this was the less shitty than the others, and so I was for it versus against it.
I'll generally agree with that.
I'm not all for like, oh my God, bring on the government to regulate stuff. I'm generally for, but the bottom line, as I've said, and I'll say this in like 10 seconds, the bottom line is this is currently, but hopefully not for long, currently delivered by a copper or fiber pipe to your house. And in America, a lot of us are spread out to where it is not logistical. It doesn't make sense for multiple companies to run pipes to your house. So you end up with a de facto monopoly regionally, and the governments cooperate. And in states like Virginia, I'm embarrassed to say, if a municipality wanted to either run their own fiber or copper for broadband or deliver it over their existing electrical system or enter into an agreement with a third party private company, they would not be allowed to do that. It's banned by the state. And
so
guess
let's
what?
actually talk about this story.
So anyway, this is about these three guys who actually want fast lanes. They're lobbying. They're the ones who are, Alan, you can explain it maybe, but in general, it's the three people who would be perceived as victims who are being saved by the FCC's action, who are in fact, wait a minute, we want to have paid fast lanes because we want to avoid things like bandwidth caps and what have you. We want people to be able to watch unlimited Sony PS2 stuff and Showtime and HBO, and we don't want this to be subject.
No. Sony's not in it because of PlayStation stuff.
Whatever it is, but
they're in it because they're a movie manufacturer. They want to be able to push their movies directly.
The analogy here is T-Mobile's deal with, was it Spotify, where they said there are data caps for your T-Mobile plan, but if you are using Spotify, then they are a preferred distributor, or whatever they called it, and the songs you listen to on Spotify will not count towards your data cap. And that was one of the excesses, quote unquote, that I think Tom Wheeler, the FCC chairman, mentioned, or either in the official thing or in a conversation. But that's one of the things generally listed as like a cause for concern, because then if you want to set up a music streaming service and you don't have an agreement with T-Mobile, no one's going to listen to your thing because it does count against the cap. And is that fair? And are they abusing their position? And this gets back to our Google story. But what do you think about this? This is a very interesting turn in this, where you have folks who you'd think would be for net neutrality who are saying, wait a minute, we want paid fast lanes because of the limitation that data caps bring.
But that's not why they want it.
Go ahead.
They want it because they don't want Netflix to do it. They don't want YouTube to do it. They feel they're big enough to keep smaller competitors out with something like this, as opposed to net neutrality, which would not entrench their position. They don't want it because of the data caps. And the article only points out the data caps as one example. They want to be counted as a managed service, which gets around the net neutrality laws, simply because they want other people to be forced to be in the net neutrality laws and them not to be.
Gotcha.
They basically want to maintain the status quo of having companies having the cable companies pay for access to HBO and Showtime.
And these companies are all legacy incumbents. They're used to doing deals, 7, 8 figure deals, and greasing the skids, etc. All right, so it's an interesting tangent. Coming up Monday, explain this thing, and hopefully you can pronounce it correctly, because I think I've massacred it 2 or 3
I cannot
times.
pronounce it because I do not speak Swiss German correctly, but I believe it is Tag Heuer, is a luxury watchmaker, and this year apparently at some luxury watch conference, believe it or not, there are such things.
Craig Ship could
Tag
tell us
Heuer
about that.
and Intel and Google got on stage together and announced that they were going to be releasing a smartwatch. So this is one of the first salvos against Apple's current positioning themselves in the luxury smartwatch market. And it's a brilliant move in some ways, because this is basically Google saying, look, if you're an incumbent watchmaker, you already make beautiful watches, you already have a century long tradition of making luxury watches. Apple is not going to let you do that. We are. So it's a brilliant move from Google's part. We'll be talking about it more on Monday.
I saw a story or an op-ed piece saying that Apple would be stupid to not eventually make the iWatch or the Apple Watch compatible with Android phones, and Google probably the same in the reverse. And we've seen other examples of this, like BlackBerry Messenger being available on other platforms, and Windows is doing a big push for multi-platform. Do you see Apple Watch trying to make their watch compatible with Android or potentially
Nope.
Windows or anything like that? Is the watch itself a product they want to sell and make the most money from it, or is it just a means to an end to get even more iOS adoption? And they could give a damn about it working with Android.
I think you're asking the wrong question at that point. The watch is its own selling. The watch exists for its own reason, but it also exists to promote the iOS ecosystem. Honestly, Apple doesn't give a damn about anyone else. They have no interest whatsoever in helping anyone else out because they don't need to.
How was your Google Plus week, Dr. Furstenberg, author of Designing and Developing for Google Glass, which is always a tongue twister for me. It's available at O'Reilly Media. It's got 5 stars, I think. And check it out if you're interested in developing or just learning more about Google Glass as a platform. Then check it out. I bought it, and it's a great book. So
My
Alan,
Google Plus week was actually pretty good, and it was actually very glass filled. I think every day this week, or in the past week, I was out somewhere with Google Glass, and I was somewhere, and somebody asked me about it. Last weekend for Pi Day, I was out, and I was stopped 5 or 6 times by people asking me more, questions about glass. So there's still an interest in it. People understand it far better than the tech idiots in San Francisco seem to understand it. I think it has a great future.
excellent. And I swear to God, at Costco, they were sampling multiple pies for Pi Day. So kudos to them for getting and not getting the joke. My week was good. Good and bad. I lost an uncle, so I may not be able to do the show next
Yes.
week. We'll see. I'm sorry.
My condolences.
Thank you. So I may actually be traveling quite a distance next week, and so the show's up in the air for next week. But other than that, we got the paper out, so that's good. And I got the kid's friend from high school's here, and they've eaten pizza. Now they're playing video games and Facebooking and YouTubing and all the things that teenage kids do. And giggling.
Teenage kids don't use
incessantly.
Facebook.
Oh yes, they do.
Really? All the teenage kids I know don't.
They do. They use.
Facebook is so 5 years ago.
Hey guys,
I don't care what Alan has to say.
come here. Tell me, both you guys, real quick. I know they use a lot of Snapchat.
Snapchat's different.
And what else do you guys use? What's the deal? Come here, real quick. Time is money.
Time is money.
Yeah, come on over.
Time is money because you're paying a hell of a lot to broadcast
All right,
on
this
YouTube.
is Josh. All right, so Josh and Richard. So tell me. Okay, so he says kids are not using.
How much do you guys use Facebook?
Now you're both 11th grade, right?
I'm 12th grade. He's
12th grade, 11th grade. Okay, so go ahead.
How much do you guys use Facebook?
Slide in here.
I use Facebook every single day.
A lot.
Why?
Why? Because there's entertainment on there, like the funny vines and videos, and people to talk to.
Do you use Vine too?
Yeah.
How about Twitter?
No.
No.
Dan? How about Snapchat?
Yeah. Every day.
Yeah.
WhatsApp?
Every day.
Really?
I use Snapchat every day.
WhatsApp too? Every day?
Facebook.
WhatsApp.
No, WhatsApp.
Okay, you don't use WhatsApp, but you do?
What the fuck is WhatsApp?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Oh, they didn't understand when we said WhatsApp what we were talking about.
Yeah,
So they're not WhatsApp users. But they're in
Okay.
the US, right?
Yeah, but WhatsApp is growing in the U.S.
what is it?
It's an instant messenger-like thing.
It's a it's
How
like
often do you use Facebook Messenger?
Every day.
Yeah. Anytime can I get a message?
Yeah.
Okay, thank
so
you.
he is just turned 19 like a few days ago, right? Or a week ago. He is almost 17. You're 16. You'll
Yeah.
turn 17 when?
May.
In May. So he's almost 17. So they don't fit, or do they fit the pattern? Where do they and don't they fit the pattern that you would have expected, Alan?
They Snapchat, which is what I expected.
He seemed pretty happy with our results.
I'm finding more and more teens are using WhatsApp, and fewer are using Facebook.
I've never heard of WhatsApp. What is
Yeah,
it?
it's not popular around here.
Yeah, what is it?
Well, you're in Virginia, so
It's
We're
a
go-
free app. Did Facebook
it's
buy
like
them?
an instant messaging app. It's like a text messaging app.
Oh, so it's like Kick or something.
It's
See, Kick I've never heard of. Do you use Yo?
What is Yo?
That one I've heard a little about. Its day may have gone. Oh, what's you guys use Mongoose? You heard of Mongoose?
I've never heard of
No.
Mongoose.
See, Mongoose is the new hotness.
What's he talking about?
We'll be talking about Mongoose on Monday.
It's like you're speaking a foreign language.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I've not heard any of these.
You guys just aren't hip. That's what it boils down.
I'm on like Google Plus and Google Play like all the time.
This
and
is-
I still
oh,
have not found anything like
You're on
this.
Google Plus? Oh, you're definitely not hip.
See, Alan, your teen opinions. You're not expressing enough diversity.
Yeah, we go to school with like 2,000 other kids, and I bet you if I went around and had a survey, they wouldn't even know what half the apps you've listed are.
Yeah.
Possibly not.
And they're all the hip new kids from like Baltimore and DC and New Jersey and stuff, so they're pretty up to date with most of their stuff.
Yeah. We should probably get a list of these and then check them out. Be the first ones to use them.
We'll do that for next week, Dan. How's
He's
that?
gonna get right on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of
Yeah, these
want to check it
guys.
out now.
No, that's a great question. We'll do that for next week.
But
Thanks,
but
guys.
again, doesn't it end up where we were with the initial Google Plus adoption issue? If they log into WhatsApp and none of their friends are on it, right? Then they're going to be like, well, this sucks.
Well, again, it goes down to what's the compelling reason to be on anything,
True.
which, I've only been saying for 3.5 years.
That just blew my mind.
Yeah, I don't even know what he's talking about.
That just blew my mind. I'm out of here.
As they go back to.
have to think anymore.
All right.
I didn't even know those existed.
Wait, what was it called? The WhatsApp?
It's called WhatsApp. WHATS
It's just like Messenger.
or APP. It's
APP.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like
one of the most
Messenger, but
popular.
better.
Didn't they get?
What the hell isn't better than Messenger? Let's be honest here.
But didn't they get purchased for like? Who bought them? Facebook? Who bought WhatsApp? Wasn't it Mark
Might have
Zuckerberg?
been Facebook. Or was it Twitter? I don't remember. Who bought
Wait,
WhatsApp?
is it still around? I don't know. Let's Google it.
Yes,
You're on Google
I'm
Plus.
going right now.
it's called WhatsApp, and it's
Facebook.
yeah. Facebook bought them for like over $1 billion or
1 billion.
How much?
19 billion.
Facebook bought them for $19 billion.
That's a little much.
That is actually more than Alan's net worth.
Oh, is it WhatsApp
That's a
Messenger?
surprise.
Hold on.
Um,
Is that it?
yeah, WhatsApp. That's it. How many ratings does it have? Is that the right one?
Yeah, it should be this first one that
What
came
does
up.
it say? It's got, wow. Yeah, 24 million downloads. Or, okay, 1 billion downloads, 24 million reviews. So you will not be the first to adopt this new app
get
called
this
WhatsApp.
app.
See, you may have. You
I
should-
may have just started WhatsApp's trending in Front Royal, Virginia.
Absolutely,
It's gonna go. It's going.
because these guys are pretty badass guys. So anyway, so my week was good. I got to meet Josh, who's a pretty good kid, although he doesn't have a firm knowledge of WhatsApp. But I can get past that
It's gonna trend. It's trending,
as our
man.
friendship grows. But anyway, thank you all for watching. We have two programs. One is called Our Android Week, and that is every Monday at around 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, unless we do it at another time. But Our Android Week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Monday nights, where we discuss all things Android. That'll be coming up in just a few days. And then Google Plus Week is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And next week's iffy because I've got a funeral thing I got to go to in North Carolina. But we thank you for watching. We thank you for your comments. Good to have Bugsy as a new viewer, or maybe just the first time he's commented. But we thank you very much. And until next time, have an epic, awesome, badass WhatsApp Google Plus week. Thanks.